Hey there, Todd Whatley, certified elder law attorney with Generations Legal Group. We're up to question number 33. Can I hire family members as caregivers? Good question, okay? And that's a very common question is once people find out, typically how this happens is mom or dad get feeling bad or husband and wife get feeling bad and need some help. A lot of times family members just do it, okay? They just volunteer to do it because that's what family does. But then if they could get paid, that would be really cool. And so with a lot of these answers, the answer is yes, but, okay? And I hate being that way, but it's just there are a few things, particularly with Medicaid, that are this easy. Okay, so let's go into it and discuss. So the answer is, of course, you can't hire your spouse for Medicaid purposes, okay, because that just, the money stays within the family and that really doesn't help and it just causes problems. But you can hire a child or grandchild or niece or nephew or neighbor or someone from church, whatever. Yes, you can hire them and they can come in and provide care, and Medicaid will recognize that if there's a contract. Okay, so there's a few things here. By the time I get through with this, if you're like most clients, you're going to say, okay, yes, I can, but I don't want to. Okay, and that makes total sense because once you go through all the steps to do it correctly and to get it done without causing problems with Great Uncle Sam, you'll realize it's probably not worth it. But stick with me and let's go through it. So for Medicaid purposes, you will need a contract. You will need something, and it doesn't have to be an attorney drawn up contract. You could probably download one off the internet, which is probably fine. But the requirements are what the person's going to do, okay? And those general caregiver contracts have that in there. You need to try to estimate the number of hours that the person will work, or you can just say, it's per hour and the person has to document their hours. Either way, but it's per hour and the pay per hour has to be reasonable. Now, reasonable is based on the skills of the person providing the care. Now, I used to be a physical therapist, and so if I was going in and I was doing physical therapy for a client, yeah, they should pay me what a physical therapist would get paid. But if you're going in and doing caregiver work, that rate of pay is much less because the skill level, the amount of training or the skill level to do that is much less. So the way you figure out that process, call around to the local home care agencies, okay? They will provide, typically it's a CNA or, someone with some training. And if the person is going to provide care, typically there are CNA courses around and you can go, and that's good for two reasons. Number one, they're going to learn some skills. They're going to learn ways to provide better care, to transfer better, to learn how to change the sheets with the person still in the bed, how to do some basic exercise and things. They're going to learn some very valuable skills that are valuable. And number two, they will have the designation so that they can prove to Medicaid, hey, I'm not just someone off the street. I'm a certified nurse assistant and therefore can command a little higher pay. But that's typically what the home care agency is going to provide. And they'll say, we charge X number of dollars per hour, which is typically mid to upper 20s at the end of 2024. Some of them may charge 30. And so that's the cap. You don't have to pay your granddaughter $28 an hour. If she'll do it for $15 an hour, that's great. You're getting a deal. You don't have to pay that. You can pay whatever y'all agree. You just can't pay more than. So you just put that in the contract to say, if they're going to spend 3 hours a day for 5 days a week, that's 15 hours a week. You can say, I'm going to pay 15 hours at $20 an hour, so that's $300 a week. And if that's in a contract signed by both you and the caregiver, then that's perfectly legitimate to Medicaid, and you can justify $300 a week going to this person, and it's not a gift. The thing about family payments is that Medicaid wants to see it as a gift. They literally say your granddaughter should provide care out of the goodness of her heart for free. And if you don't have a contract, that's what they're going to tell you. She did that for free and you gave her a gift. Well, God knows caregiving is not a free gift, okay? It is work. That's why it has to be in writing, dated prior to the date that the services started. I'll just leave that there. Just have a contract. It doesn't have to be notarized. It just has to be signed, and it has to be dated prior to the beginning of the service. So that's one thing, okay? That will keep Medicaid government off your case, or, keep them from imposing a transfer. And the granddaughter does need to justify those hours. She doesn't have to list everything she does, but she needs to say, just keep a spiral notebook handy and say, on December 10th, I came in from 9 until noon, 3 hours. And so she justified her 3 hours, and then just put basically what she did. Fed granddad, changed clothes, vacuumed the floor. Okay, just basic things to justify 3 hours of work, or we play 2 hours of poker. Okay, whatever she does, just kind of generally, she doesn't have to be super specific, but just do it. Okay. Now, to keep the IRS off your case, you should treat this person as an employee, because the federal law says caregivers are employees. You cannot do it as a contractor. There's a few professions out there that were being honestly pretty abused in the contractor realm, and they said, nope, you do this, you're an employee. And that is one of those jobs, so they are an employee, which means you have to treat them as an employee and pay them accordingly, which means FICA, Medicare, unemployment, all of that stuff. Now, there are some services out there that will do that for you, but typically a CPA or a bookkeeper you can find someone to do that for you, to say, hey, if I pay $300 a month, how do I pay the FICA and the Medicare and unemployment insurance? Okay, but you've got to do that to stay legitimate with the IRS. So if you're willing to do all that, to do a contract, and to treat this person truly as an employee by paying all of the required fees above just what they're being paid, sure, you can hire a family member as a caregiver. So, curious, do you still want to do that? Leave a note in the comments, okay, and say, boy, I don't think I want to do that. Okay, well, once I go through this with most families, that's what they decide also, but just let me know. I would love to hear, okay? I don't ask this very often, but please subscribe, whatever is required in this format. Please do that. It helps to make sure that you get future videos, and it helps us with algorithm to show this to more people, and share this, okay? Share this with your friends or neighbors. Okay. If you have further questions, please give us a call, 479-601-4119, or go to our website, generationslegalgroup.com. And there's a lot of good information there, and you can schedule an appointment. All right. We'll see you next time.